Usually when we sit down for one of these deep dives, we're dissecting giants. We're looking at Apple's ecosystem, or maybe Amazon's supply chain.
Right, the global players.
But today, I've got a stack of documents on my desk that feels, well, it feels surprisingly intimate.
It's a very different scale, isn't it?
It really is. We are not looking at Silicon Valley. We're not looking at Wall Street. We are looking at Pampa, Texas.
A town of what, 16, 17,000 people?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Right in the flattest part of the Panhandle. And yet, the strategy outlined in these internal agency documents from a group called Texion is just as cutthroat as anything you'd see in a New York City boardroom.
I'd almost argue it's more cutthroat because for these businesses we're talking about, plumbers, roofers, electricians, this isn't about stock prices.
No.
It's about whether they can make payroll next Friday. It's pure survival.
So let's set the stage for today's deep dive. We're looking at an internal strategy designed to help local underdogs defeat what they call corporate Goliaths in local search results.
But it's not just basic SEO.
No, not at all. This agency has gamified the entire process. They've turned local marketing into a literal war game.
And that's the part that just hooked me immediately. This proprietary metric they've created, the Panhandle Domination Score, the P.D.S.
Right.
And if you're a tradesman in Pampa, apparently this one score is all that stands between you and, well, extinction.
Panhandle Domination Score. It sounds like something from a movie. But before we get into the mechanics of it, I want to talk about the psychology. Why turn it into a game? Why not just send a report that says, you need better keywords?
Because data is boring, but a score is emotional. Think about your credit score. If I tell you your credit utilization ratio is a bit high, you might, glaze over.
Right, that means nothing to me.
But if I tell you your credit score is 580 and you are in the red zone, you panic. You want to fix it now.
It just triggers that competitive instinct.
Precisely. And this agency, Texion, they don't position themselves as a marketing firm. The documents are explicit about this. They adopt the persona of a scout.
A scout.
Yeah. They're coming back from the front lines to tell the business owner, sir, your defenses are weak, and the enemy is at the gates.
And the enemy isn't just a metaphor. We're going to get into the specific invaders later on. But let's unpack this weapon first, the P.D.S. What actually goes into this number?
Okay, so it's a 0 to 100 scale, and it's built on 3 main pillars. The first one is the most obvious, visibility power.
Which is just, can people actually find you?
Pretty much. But specifically, are you in what they call the map pack? When you search for plumber and Pampa, are you in those top 3 results with the little red pins?
Because if you're number 4...
You might as well be on the moon. We've all done it.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think I have ever once clicked the More Places button. I just assume the top 3 are the best.
And that is the fallacy these documents are built to fight. Because the second pillar, this is where the real tragedy happens. They call it technical armor.
Technical armor. I love the branding. It sounds like we're outfitting a tank, not a WordPress site.
In a digital sense, you are. This is all about infrastructure. Mobile speed, UI stability, security. The documents use this great phrase, mobile structural likes.
Okay, what does that look like in the real world?
So imagine you're a homeowner. Your pipe just burst. You're frantic. You search for a plumber on your phone. You click a link. If that site takes 4 seconds to load, or if the Call Now button is overlapping the text so you can't click it.
I'm gone. I am already back to the search results, clicking the next guy down the list.
Exactly. And that is a leak. Your armor failed. You had the visibility, you got the click, but you couldn't hold the ground. And the agency, they measure this ruthlessly. Every second of load time is treated like a hole in the hull of a ship.
And what's the third pillar?
Local authority. This is the trust signal. And this gets into the real nitty-gritty of something called NAP consistency.
NAP as in name, address, phone number.
Correct. It seems so trivial, but it is one of the most common reasons local businesses just fail to rank. Let's say on your Facebook page, you're Bob's Plumbing, Inc. But on your website, you're just Bob's Plumbing. And over on Yelp, you've got an old phone number from 3 years ago.
To a person, we know that's all the same, Bob.
But to a Google bot, that looks like 3 separate entities. It creates doubt. And Google's algorithm absolutely hates doubt. If it isn't 100% sure you are who you say you are, it won't serve you up in a crisis. It'll serve up the big corporate franchise that has perfectly consistent data across the board.
So the P.D.S. just aggregates all these invisible factors, speed, data, ranking into a single color-coded status.
Yes, and the colors are brutal. 0 to 50 is the red zone. You are officially labeled vulnerable.
Wow. That has to sting, to hear you are vulnerable.
It's designed to. 51 to 80 is yellow. You're a contender. You're in the fight, but you aren't winning. And 81 to 100, that's the domination zone. That's green. That's where you own your market.
So the whole sales pitch just becomes, let's get you to green.
It simplifies the entire complex world of SEO. You don't sell schema markup to a roofer. You sell getting to the green zone.
Let's talk about who these underdogs are, because the documents are very specific. They aren't just trying to help the guy on page 10 who has no reputation.
No, that's a key distinction. The target client here is the business ranked number 4 through number 10.
The almost there crowd.
The tragic crowd, really. These are businesses that often have fantastic reputations in town. They have the trucks, the skills, the history. They are, as the documents say, just one fix away from the top. But because they're number 5, they are functionally invisible.
And who's eating their lunch? Who are these Goliaths?
This is where the narrative gets, well, almost biblical. The docs identify 2 types of enemies. First, the corporate Goliaths.
The big national franchises.
Your Roto-Rooters, your Mr. Electrics. These companies have massive budgets, national teams optimizing everything. They're the Death Stars of the local service world.
Yeah, hard to compete with that kind of money.
It is. But the second enemy is the one that really gets the local guys fired up. The out-of-town invaders.
This was fascinating to me. We're talking about Pampa, but the search results are being invaded by companies from other towns.
It's a massive problem in rural areas. You'll have companies from Amarillo, Borger, or Dumas towns 50 miles away showing up in the Pampa search results.
So I'm in Pampa, I search for a roofer, and Google gives me a guy in Amarillo. Why would it do that?
Because the guy in Amarillo have better technical armor. His site loads in 1 second. His schema is clean. Google thinks, well, this local Pampa guy's website is kind of a mess, so this Amarillo company must be the more relevant authority.
And that's the sting they talk about in the documents, isn't it?
That is the emotional hook. The agency tells the business owner, you are the Pampa expert. You live here. Your kids go to school here. But Google thinks a guy in Amarillo is more relevant than you are.
Ouch. That taps right into local pride. It stops being about business and starts being about territory.
Exactly. The mission becomes take back the map pack.
But passion isn't enough. You need a weapon. The documents mention something called the 5-minute SEO app. Is this just a fancy audit tool?
It is, but it's focused on those specific leaks we talked about. But there's one technical term I really want to drill down on because it keeps coming up in all their war room briefs. Schema.
Schema. Sounds like a Bond villain.
The schema.
It's actually the hero if you use it right. Think of your website as a book written in English. A human can read it just fine. But Google is a robot. It scans the book, but it sometimes misses the context. Schema is like a digital translator.
Okay.
It's a layer of code that explicitly tells Google, hey, this text right here, this is our address, and this number, that's a 5-star review.
So without schema, Google is just guessing.
No.
With schema, Google knows.
And in the eyes of an algorithm, certainty equals rank. The invaders from Amarillo almost always have this set up properly. The local Pampa guys usually don't. That's the whole ball game right there.
And the solution they propose seems pretty heavy-duty for a local plumber. They talk about moving clients to Google Cloud Run. Isn't that enterprise-level technology? It is, and that is the equalizer. Most local sites are on cheap shared servers. They're slow, they're unreliable. By moving them to Google's own infrastructure, the Google Cloud Platform Texion is essentially building the client's house on Google's land.
If you want to win the game, play by the house rules.
It creates what they call a Google-verified look. The promise is zero-friction ranking. If your site is hosted by Google, uses Google's preferred code, and feeds data directly to Google Maps, well, Google's going to like you a lot more.
It makes sense. It's tactical sycophancy.
That is a great way to put it. It's technological bootlicking, and it absolutely works.
All right, let's get out of the theory and step into the war room. The documents break down specific trades in Pampa. This is where the drama really comes alive. Let's start with roofing.
Okay. Roofing in the Panhandle is described as a high-stakes battle.
Because of the storms, I'm guessing. Hail.
Pampa gets hammered by hail, by wind. When a storm hits, demand for roofers goes vertical. It is a gold rush, and the competition is fierce. The documents highlight a specific underdog here, Crawford Roofing.
Tell me about Crawford.
They're the classic tragedy of this whole system. They have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, a legit local business. They do high-quality work. But They're sitting just outside that top tier in search.
So when the storm hits and people are frantically Googling roof repair, they just don't see Crawford.
They see Mesa Roofing, which is based in Borger, or they see Double D Roofing from Amarillo. These invaders are siphoning off all the storm revenue that should be staying right there in Pampa.
That's potentially millions of dollars leaving the local economy because of bad code.
It really is. You can just imagine the Crawford crew sitting there with their trucks idle, watching an Amarillo truck roll past their shop to a job site down the street. That's the pain point.
Okay, then there's plumbing. The dynamic there is different.
Plumbing is emergency-driven. You don't browse for a plumber. You need one now.
Yeah, I'm not reading the About Us page when my basement is flooding.
Exactly. You click the very first result. And in Pampa, the situation is a crisis for local businesses. There is only one true Pampa plumber in the top 5, a company called Little Bill's.
Little Bill is holding the line.
He's a lone warrior. Everyone else is sending trucks from 50 miles away. And the big villain here is Roto-Rooter, the corporate Goliath. They are just sucking up all that emergency demand because they have the budget to dominate that #1 spot.
So for a local plumber, the pitch isn't just about growth. It's about survival. It's, let's stop sending local money to a corporate HQ in Cincinnati.
Right. It becomes almost a civic duty. But the worst one, according to these documents, is HVAC, heating and air.
Why is that one the worst?
Because it's the most invaded market. Pampa homeowners are routinely calling companies in Dumas like Winkleman Heating and Air simply because the local technical armor is non-existent.
Dumas is not close. That is a long drive for a service call.
It is. And the document notes that the locals, like a company called Brally Works, are practically invisible online. It's a direct failure of infrastructure. It's not that Brally Works can't fix an AC unit. It's that their digital signal is too weak to penetrate the noise from out-of-towners.
It really just highlights how the digital world has these layers that we don't see as consumers. I search for a plumber, I click the top result. I don't think about the war that just happened to get that name to the top of my list.
And that is the tragedy for the underdogs. You might be the best roofer in Pampa, bar none. But if your technical armor is leaking, you simply do not exist to the modern consumer. You're a ghost in your own town.
The documents mention invisible leads. What does that mean?
It's their term for the estimated call volume lost just by sitting in spot number 4 instead of spot number 3. The drop-off it's precipitous. It's not a gentle slope, it's a cliff. Being #1 might get you 30% of all the clicks.
And number 4
might get you 5%.
So moving up 2 inches on a phone screen can literally double a company's revenue.
Easily. It is a game of inches. Or pixels, really.
There's also electricians in the documents. That market is described as wide open. What does that mean here?
It means there's a power vacuum. The local scene is fragmented. You have these well-respected local names like Nickum Electric and Affordable Electric, but they're getting pushed around by regional heavyweights like Gandy Electric.
So the opportunity there is for one of these local guys to just get their act together and seize the throne.
Exactly. The first one to fix their technical armor wins the whole territory. It is land grab rules.
So how does Texion actually close the deal? These are busy people, they're on roofs, they're under sinks, they don't have time for a lecture on algorithm.
They use a 15-minute strategy call, and they don't waste a single second. The opener is crucial. They don't say, hello, would you like to buy some SEO?
Which is the fastest way to get hung up on.
Immediately. Instead, they say, your score is a 42. It is being suppressed by 2 or 3 specific things we can fix in the next 30 days.
It's diagnostic. It implies there's a cure. You're sick, and I have the medicine.
And then they do something very clever to prove it. They use a live demo. They don't just promise a faster site, they show it. They'll pull up a demo site hosted on that Google Cloud Run architecture we talked about, and they load it side by side with the client's current slow site.
So the client is sitting there watching their own site just struggle to load the spinning wheel of death while the demo site snaps open instantly.
It's visual proof. What you see is what you get. It builds immediate trust. If you can show a guy who works with his hands that you have a tool that works better than his current tool, you've basically made the sale.
It just cuts through all the noise. It's not a vague promise of better brand awareness. It's, look how much faster this engine runs.
And the close is tying it all back to that P.D.S. metric. Our goal is to get your P.D.S. to an 85 plus so the phone doesn't stop ringing. It creates a shared, measurable objective. It's not, pay me a retainer. It's, let's get this number up.
It's just fascinating how they've taken something as dry as search engine optimization, which is usually just confusing jargon about backlinks and meta tags, and turned it into this compelling story about protecting your hometown.
That's the absolute genius of the strategy. You see, most business owners, they tune out when you start talking about SSL certificates. But when you translate that into armor, it makes sense. It becomes an asset you have to maintain.
And when you translate search ranking into a domination score,
Hmm.
it triggers that raw competitive instinct. No self-respecting business owner wants to be in the red zone.
They want to be green. They want to be dominant.
It really is brilliant because it aligns the technical reality with the business owner's worldview. They understand competition. They understand territory. Dexion just gave them a map of the battlefield.
It does make you wonder, though, as consumers, are we always getting the best service, or are we just getting the service with the best SEO?
That's the uncomfortable question, isn't it? The best plumber might be that guy on page 2 who refuses to play the Google game. But the reality of the modern market is that if you don't play the game, you just don't get the customer.
The algorithm is the gatekeeper.
It is. And in Pampa, Texas, right now, the gatekeeper prefers the invaders. Unless, of course, you fix your score.
So as we wrap this up, this look into the invisible war of the Panhandle, it makes you look at your own phone a little differently.
It absolutely should. Every time you search near me, you're looking at the aftermath of a battle. You're seeing the winners, you are not seeing the casualties.
Here's a question for you to chew on as you go about your day. We all like to think we're good at what we do. We have the skills, we have the experience, maybe even that A+ rating like Crawford Roofing.
But the algorithm doesn't know you personally.
Yeah.
It doesn't know you're a good person or a hard worker. It only knows what it can crawl.
Exactly. So if you looked at your own professional presence, your LinkedIn, your portfolio, your company's website, through the unfeeling eyes of a Google bot, are you a local authority?
Or is your technical armor just full of holes?
Are you in the green zone or are you vulnerable?
And, maybe more importantly, who is the Goliath currently eating your lunch? Just because they know the rules of the game better than you do.
Food for thought.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. Stay dominant out there.